Good morning, guys. Good afternoon. It's Mr. Benitez. Welcome, guys, back. This is Wednesday, lesson part 2. We're going to continue talking about religion. I'm going to do a quick review. Take a look. This is the map of Afro-Eurasia. Afro-Eurasia just means it's Africa, Europe, and Asia put together. So far, this Monday, we learned about 5 religions. Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. Those 3 religions are universal religions, and then we have ethnic religions, which is Hinduism and Judaism. All of these 5 religions, all of these 5 major religions began in Asia and Southwest Asia. This region right here called Southwest Asia, that is technically also called the Middle East. Christianity started in Israel, so did Judaism. We have Islam started in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and we have Buddhism and Hinduism, which started in India. Make sure you guys review this map. For your assignment today, you need to know the countries as well. So here's a picture of North Africa and Southwest Asia. Another name for Southwest Asia is the Middle East. Make sure you guys pause the video to look at and know the countries in these regions. Here's a picture of Asia and all of the countries in Asia. Make sure you guys know this as well. This Monday, these are the questions we covered. But for today's lesson, our main focus is going to be why do religions organize space and distinctive patterns, aka cultural landscape. Something else that we need to also review is what are the types of diffusion. Make sure you guys pause this video. Diffusion just means spread. How something spreads from the original center and how it moves. And there's 2 types of diffusion, expansion and relocation. Relocation just means that an object, an idea, a person is moving from one location to the next nearby location. Relocation diffusion does not move as far as expansion. When we talk about expansion diffusion, there's 3 types. There's hierarchical, which means someone from the top, like a government, a president, a celebrity, a religious figure, passes down the idea down to everyone else. Just think of Trump passing laws for COVID-19 all the way down to everyone else. There's also contagious diffusion, which means something that spreads with no discernible pattern. It's very random, it spreads everywhere like a disease. And then finally, we have stimulus diffusion. This is where we have an idea that starts in one place, it moves to a different location, and it is completely changed into something new. So those are the types of expansion diffusions. Here's an important vocab word that you guys need to know. Cultural landscape. This just means people express their beliefs through what they create. People create, specifically when we talk about these 5 religions, people create memorial spaces for the dead, cemeteries. People create restaurants and food markets that often cater to particular religious groups. For example, in many Muslim countries, people are not allowed to drink alcohol and they're not allowed to eat pork. So when you go to Muslim countries, many restaurants will not serve alcohol and will not serve pork if they are trying to reach out to a Muslim audience, a Muslim market. Also, some areas, there you will see a lot of signs that are written in that specific language. I just noticed I spelled language incorrect, but you guys know how to. I'll make the correction later. And the most obvious sign of cultural landscape, how people manipulate their space, is through architecture. So what type of buildings do religious people build? So here's a question we need to answer. Why do religions organize space in distinctive patterns? Why does the territory What do religious people use the territory for? Why is it so important for them? One big reason why organize the space around them is important is because it's sacred. Uh, Religious people dedicate a specific territory and land, and they build their architecture. For example, Christians build their churches, and usually the churches have a cross or they have Jesus on the cross. Usually, if you ever go to Latin America and you go to a pueblito, at the center of a pueblito will be la iglesia, the church, and will be la plaza. This is where people go do business, and this is where people go for their service. Now, for Muslims, they build things called mosques. This is where Muslims get together and they worship. Also, Buddhists, they have something called pagodas. Pagodas are very simple. They're not as elaborate. They are big, they are beautiful, but they don't have as many design as the other uh, architecture that religious people create. These are the pagodas. These pagodas usually hold relics of Buddha or statue Buddhas, and they're usually just for people who are Buddhists to go to these monuments and architectures and just to meditate. Right here, you guys can see a Christian church. You'll find this in France. This is a synagogue where Jewish people go to worship. This is a mosque. These are very easy to figure out because they have dome shapes and they have minarets, which are these towers. Usually, religious people have these types of architectures at the center of their towns or nearby other important aspects of their lives to show that their religion is important to them. This is a Hindu temple. It's very high and it has many figures on it. All those figures represents demons, gods, spirits. Usually, when religious people, where they are Christian, Buddhists, or Muslim, their sacred places are mainly focused on location of important events. So, for example, if you're Muslim or if you are a Buddhist, you're going to build shrines, build temples to mark very specific locations of very important things that have occurred to that person. So, for example, take a look at this. In in India, we have Buddha, who is a real person, a real historical figure, and he lived his life. And throughout his life, he would visit all these parts of India and Nepal. And at each location, a specific event, a specific important event happened to Buddha. And at those locations, you can find many temples or shrines to remember the life of Buddha. Uh, One another very important example is one of the holiest location for Prophet Muhammad is the city of Mecca. That city is important because he was born in that city. And the second most holiest place is the city of Medina, and that city is important for Muslims because that's where Muhammad was buried. This is the city of Mecca. This is where Muhammad was born. Muhammad and his followers built that that cube shaped building, and Muhammad commanded all of his followers to practice the Hajj, which means pilgrimage. Hajj, Hajj, is a requirement for all Muslims to at least one time in their lives, if possible. They have to visit the city of Mecca where Muhammad was born, and they have to pay their respects. They have to come here and feel closer to God. Once again, Prophet Muhammad is not God. He is just a messenger according to Islam. Also, so let's universal religions focus on the important events of their founders. But when we talk about ethnic religions like Hinduism, they focus more on the physical geography, such as mountains and rivers and coastlines, and they give a significance to those aspects. And there are many temples for people to go worship, but one very important physical location for people who practice Hinduism is the Ganges River. They believe that river will purify them of their sins. So, what other way do religious people use the land for? They use it for cemeteries. They use it to bury their dead. For Christians, Muslims, and Jews, they dedicate specific parts of the land to bury their dead, and those are called cemeteries. If you're a Hindu, for the most part, or you're Buddhist, there's a lot of cremation. A lot of Christians, Muslim, Jews, they dedicate cemeteries because they believe in the resurrection. They believe that one day those bodies will be used again. Take a look. This is in India. These are Hindus, and they're getting ready to cremate a body. Of course, there's no body in the picture. Also, something important that you guys need to know is uh, religion influences people so much that they begin to name things after their religion. Either they use religious names or they use their language. So, for example, for Muslims, they in Saudi Arabia they speak Arabic. If you go to Saudi Arabia, a lot of places will be named after religious figures. You can also see this in the United States. You can also see this in Canada. For example, Roman Catholic immigrants usually give their places religious names. Take a look at this picture. Right here in the bottom, that's the United States, and right above the United States is Quebec, Canada. Quebec was conquered by the French. The French are Catholic. So when the French came over, they brought their religion and they named many of the cities in Quebec after religious people. For example, Saint Agnes, Saint Christendom, Saint Antoine, Saint Remy, Saint Alexander, Saint Bridge, Saint Philip, Saint John Baptist. All of these people are religious figures from the Bible or religious figure from church history. So, what do religious people use the land for? They use it to dedicate a place because some areas are sacred for them because their founders lived in those areas and practiced their religion and teachings in those areas. Religious people also dedicate areas for cemeteries. Religious people also name their locations after their religion. And those are a couple examples of how religious people create architecture, create buildings, or create to express their beliefs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Make sure you guys go to Google Classroom, review this PowerPoint, and make sure that you answer the FRQ. Since I didn't give you guys an FRQ on Monday, today will be the FRQ day. If you guys have any questions, I will have office hours Wednesday at 1 p.m. Thank you.